if you're an ADA holder like me, you might be like, man, what is going on? This is not an ordinary cycle. There's rate cuts about to happen. There's all this recession talk. How bad is this? And I'm going to stand here like we are in an ordinary cycle. And I'm just going to say my opinion, and that's all it is that time is running out on this chart. In a very similar way, time was running out back here post Bitcoin halving. And I'm going to explain within minutes why this is a very realistic thing and why I don't think I'm crazy. But you let me know in the comments below. And on the way in, please hit the subscribe, hit the like. Let's jump into it. I want to start with something because it is incredibly important. This is going to be a big piece of a lot of my videos now, whether it's Cardano or not. Looking at recessions dating back to 1957 on average, the S&P 500 bottoms 3 months after a recession begins, but 10 months before the recession ends. Because now we are in this environment. You go over X. Doesn't even have to be big accounts. You'll see people saying, we're already in a recession. Here's one. Technically, recession started by history. I give it a 50-50 odds that we're in a recession now. Check this out. The Fed has signaled that September interest rate cut is coming. All but 2 times in history, when the Fed has started to cut rates, a recession followed. So people are saying we're there or it is getting ready to happen. And I can't help but just look at data, history back to 57. On average, the market bottoms 3 months after the recession began. And if that is the case, and everybody can have opinions on this, right? And I think even where we are right now, 2024, there is going to be so much printing going on. And when you have an asset class like crypto, Bitcoin, and Cardano and altcoins, I just think whenever the bottom will be in, it is going to be explosive, everybody. And the thing that is crazy to me as we start digging into the Cardano charts is 3 months historically after the recession started. And oftentimes, it could be 10 months later and they're like, hey, you know what? The recession started 10 months ago. There's no exact science to when it starts, right? It's not like a set date, but 3 months after it does, the bottom in for markets. What does that mean on this chart? Well, people are saying we're in the recession, right? Let's just say we're in the recession right now on this Cardano chart. Let's go 90 days. Let's say there's going to be insane pain for the next 3 months. The beginning of December 2024 would be bottom for markets based on history to the 1950s, okay? Let's say it already started. Let's say the recession already started. Let's say the recession starts shortly after rate cuts and it's like over here. And then we're, beginning of January will be the bottom. Either way, I just want you to remember, this is where my mind is coming from as I'm doing the analysis on Cardano in this video. So let's do some analysis and keeping in mind that that 3 month range of when the recession starts, the market will bottom. Not guaranteed, by the way, but historically. Let's do this. What I want to do first, I want to go to the daily chart zoomed out, and we're actually going to zoom in on the daily just to look at the charts. This is what we're looking at right now in Cardano. But I want to go to the daily chart zoomed out, and I just want to break some things down. Put aside the recession, put aside just all of the craziness that's going on right now, the uncertainty. Last time, at this moment of the cycle, which was like 130 some days after the Bitcoin halving, that's where we are right now, ADA was down 94% at this moment, last cycle. It was just game over. For ADA, still down 94%. Bitcoin wasn't down that much. And everybody, I'm sure, back then was saying, not everybody, but a lot of people, Cardano doesn't do anything. It's done. It's over. There's not going to be any bull cycle. And then what happened? Now this cycle, the same time of the cycle, we're down 89%. So put it all aside. Cardano's not doing anything different even still, than it did last cycle. And the one thing I did notice, though, was from this 2018 high to when ADA made its way to where we are right now, that was around 992 days after that all-time high. This time around, and this is why I think it feels a little bit more painful for Cardano holders, this time around we're looking at almost 1,100 days from all-time high to this moment, right? So it's been very grueling. You can just look at most altcoin charts, and in this case, Cardano, and it has been incredibly grueling. But again, I zoom out, I look at the data, and we go to something like this weekly chart, and this purple line, by the way, I have here, This is altcoin season. This is historically altcoin season. And what I mean by that is that's Bitcoin dominance starting to fall, altcoin starting to take off. We're not even there yet. And that's what's so interesting about the zoomed out weekly chart on Cardano and most altcoins in this environment where we're talking about recession. Are we in the recession? Is the recession about to start? And with the data that markets could bottom if it repeats history 3 months after the recession starts, it's pretty interesting where this is, right? This is mid-November or so. And if you just look at that from where we are right now, we're looking at, 60 days or so. So that's 60 of the 90 days. That's 2 out of the 3 months if the recession started now. This means that, maybe we missed that altcoin season pump like we've seen in cycles past. And by the way, let me just show you what this looks like. This is the Bitcoin dominance chart zoomed out. This is what it looks like. You can see a very similar time frame after this white line, the Bitcoin halving. You can see very similar time frame where Bitcoin dominance falls right there. And then even 2 cycles ago, it falls right there, 200 some days after the halving. That's where this purple line comes from. We're not there yet, but we're getting close. Is Bitcoin dominance going to fall? Because of the recession, because of the rate cuts, because of some dramatic capitulation that happens in the markets, is Bitcoin going to make its way to its swing high, right? And that is this lower high Fibonacci. This is where we went last cycle. Is Bitcoin going to make its way to that area? And then altcoin season happens. Maybe it happens a little bit later, right? Because we're giving that like 90-day window. And how that plays on the ADA chart is going to be very up in the air, very interesting to see. But my thoughts is that Cardano, and I know this is a Cardano video, but this really does apply to most altcoins, especially the blue chips, especially the top altcoins. These altcoins are going to fly when markets bottom and crypto bounces. Now the question is, what does that look like? I was looking at this chart, and I was like, you know what? Yeah, it's nice to just remind ourselves of the data. Last time at this cycle, we're down 94%. Right now, we're down on 89. But I was looking at this chart and considering, maybe here is kind of ugly, right? Maybe not that long, but the next 3 months to 5 months or so, but going into January, February, maybe it really is ugly, right? Because we have to let this recession affect the markets, and then the markets will bottom and bounce, and the recession will still go on, right? But maybe it's ugly. And if that's the case, we should just be prepared. And this isn't a guarantee, but we can't ignore the fact that last cycle at this time, we were in a different vibe, right? We bounced out of COVID. We had our capitulation event before the halving. This time it might be after the halving. That's different. And it was just different. The money printers were turned on. People were just crazy pouring in, right? Retail was pouring in. That might not be happening at the same moment as it did last cycle, this cycle. We might have to bottom first. And if that's the case, I'm looking at this Cardano chart, and it just might require Cardano to fall, along with the rest of crypto, by the way. This would be Bitcoin falling, Bitcoin capitulating, Cardano capitulating, Chainlink, Ethereum, everything falling. And this would be different this cycle if this were to happen. But even though that is the case, and we don't get a perfect cycle repeat on the Cardano chart, I just want to say it's so close anyway. Meaning if markets bottomed within the next months or so, right? Even if it was to continue down in an environment where typically we'd start going up now, if markets bottomed because of all the recession talk and really everything that's happening, it's still not even that far off if it bottomed in January and then started to enter. And this is where that super cycle talk comes into play. That you look at a Bitcoin chart zoomed out, an ADA chart zoomed out, a bull market into 2026 is so in play. It could be so in play anyway, but if there's kind of this recession dip, I think it's even more in play because this would be the most massive reset from a crypto cycle standpoint before entering a bull cycle, because I genuinely think when traditional markets bottom, crypto will just go crazy. I really think that. So that's the daily chart. Just anticipating downside. And that is not a guarantee, right? We can go to the daily chart on ADA and just start looking at some things. I posted last night on the ADA BTC chart. This is a daily chart. Just look at this bullish divergence setting up. And I don't know if it's going to play out, but it's a big deal. The last time that we saw Cardano Bitcoin pair with this type of bullish divergence was back in 2020. And if we go look at the chart, it was back here on the weekly. So you can just see the lower low, and I'm not the first person talking about this, obviously, and we've talked about it before. And then the higher low right there. And it's just so similar right now. And this is a weekly. This isn't the daily chart I posted, but just look at that higher low momentum on the momentum oscillator, the slower moving momentum oscillator, the RSI, and then the lower low on price. Would love to see ADA finally bottom, but just look at the contest with the 20-week moving average. Again, not long ago, failing at the 20-week moving average. We're not even there yet right now. The 20-week moving average on this ADA BTC chart is, I don't know. Let's measure that. Let's just see how high ADA needs to make a move to test that area. We're looking at around 10%. 10% move to really start talking about flipping this chart around. So we're not even there yet, but that's the ADA BTC chart. We go to the daily chart just to get some idea of what's going on. And ADA is just in a very simple downtrend. And as I say time and time again, it's all a matter of breaking above the 20 and the 50, getting that 20 above the 50 and starting to see higher highs and higher lows. It's just not happening for so long. And I'm talking about, this is that pump that we had back in March. I can't believe it's just been, what's it almost been? 6 months or so since that happened. It feels like it just happened. We've just been lower lows, lower highs since. One thing I will mention, always good to see the stock RSI, which is the quicker moving momentum oscillator. Always good to see it reset. We're in oversold. So if it's going to bounce, at least test the moving averages, we could be getting close. And that's to say, it's coming from a time at end of August, we were in overbought on the quicker moving momentum oscillator. And look what happened. It was time to fall, right? So in a similar way, it could be time to at least make a move to the upside, test the moving averages, and see what happens. So, that's some short-term hopium for everybody, I think, as we watch these shorter-term charts on Cardano. The other thing I did want to mention was, you can see Cardano just testing kind of these previous lows back here. But what's good while it's happening, another potential bullish sign is we're getting a higher low here on the daily momentum oscillator. So you see that nice higher low momentum, just showing a little strength in momentum. Last time we saw something like that was back here, a little strength in momentum as ADA was falling. And that time was even a lower low. But what was that? That was ADA making the move to the upside. So there's definitely in play a move to the upside, but it really depends on what traditional markets even are doing, what the US dollar is doing at this point, what type of headlines we're going to see. So there's a lot going on that, and sometimes it's more just calm. There's not much going on in terms of headlines. And you could get a little bit more of a bullish look on a chart like this. But right now there's just way too much that the simplest thing could just send crypto falling lower, ADA falling lower and testing these previous lows into the upper 20s. And that's just something we have to prepare for. So I'm just going to continue watching these charts. You take our lower trend line just to give you an idea. Lower 20s, 27 is in play if crypto is going to continue falling. For me, it's about watching the momentum oscillators and any bullish divergence for a bullish bounce on the daily as well as the weekly chart. But everybody, the purpose of the video really wasn't to do some short-term technical analysis as much as, until we get a big move on the short term, as much as just to discuss how all of the recession talk, the rate cuts, everything, the elections are right in the middle of all of this, right where that purple line is, the elections. It's just so much happening. I'm just macro bullish on crypto, and I'm macro bullish on Cardano even still. And I think a lot of people think I'm crazy, but I look at charts like this and I'm just like, we're on pace anyway. Even though it looks so bad right now, ADA is actually outperforming where it was at this moment last cycle. And that's something. So gonna continue watching charts, everybody. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Please hit the subscribe, turn notifications on, and I appreciate you cruising through watching this video. See you in the next video. God bless.